Right. Once again, I want to welcome us to another beautiful weekend where which we could be making knowledge available for one another. In this week, we're looking at covering project schedule management and project cost management, two important knowledge areas when it comes to project management. Without you understanding schedule and how to build it, how to make the activity duration, you have not started as a project manager and you cannot be successful as a project scheduler. So today we will take a look at that and then we'll move on to cost where we'll be talking about money if the time permits. We'll understand how to build a budget. Then we move on to lots of other things. So I need a feedback if the screen is still showing you project schedule management. And if my audio is loud enough where you are.
Audio is fine and the video is fine as well.
Wow, wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Project schedule management is important. As the name implies, schedule. Schedule has to do with timeline. Schedule has to do with time management. Scheduling has to do with we coming up with the appropriate time frame for our individual activities. Like I told us when we started, the project management is application of knowledge, tools and techniques to realize project requirement. And I also told us a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create unique product, service, or result. So temporary endeavor, which means it's an activity, it's a career that will not last forever. It's an execution that does not last forever. So temporary, what do we mean by temporary? How temporary would our project be? If it does not last forever, how long would it last? Or how short would it be? This knowledge area is bringing us to want to understand that. We want to be able to define the temporariness of our given project. Time is money. So if we're making trade-offs, if we're saving time, how much are we saving? If we're delaying, how much are we losing? So this knowledge area will give us the expertise on that. So let's take a look at it. Project schedule management is the process of establishing policies, the process of establishing procedures, and we will be making documentations in this process for planning, making documentations for executing and controlling the project schedule. When I say project schedule, you just think about the time frame, think about the individual activities, how we would be coming up with policies to manage them. When do we start? When we say 1 hour, do we really mean 1 hour to be 60 minutes or 55 minutes with additional 5 minutes to want to take care of contingencies? So this is what we're talking about, the policies. As an organization, we would be coming up with policies. As I told us the other time, these policies are broken down to procedures. And these procedures are documented in manuals to guide the team. So plan schedule management. We have to plan it. When we plan schedule management, what would be our output? Our output will be schedule management plan. So that plan becomes our guide when it comes to time management on all our projects. I need you to pay attention because when you do this in all your projects, you would have good results. You will not be wasting time in places you ought not to waste time. And project schedule management has some sub-processes, which it started with the plan schedule management, and haven't gotten that, we'll move on to the next phase, which is define activities. Haven't defined the activities, the next thing we will do, we will sequence the activities. When we say define activities, we are identifying those specific actions to be performed that will produce the project deliverables, the specific actions. You see, things are becoming beautiful now, clearer to us. So when we identify them, we will put them in a document called the activity list. Sometimes we do have up to 20,000, 30,000 activities on some project. Like my first project, an LNG project, we had 150,000 activities at the time to manage. Wow, that was massive. So now you have these activities cascaded in the activity list. You move on to the next phase, which is called the sequence activities. And in this process, we want to make documentations about the relationship of all these activities. You know, something will come before other things. We want to take a look at the precedency. We want to see the relationship. What comes first before what? Peradventure, you've been given a project as to come up with a cooking book. You know, the research would come first before writing. The research will come first before the first draft. Identifying the research, identifying the first draft, identifying editing is what we do in the defined activities. But when we move on to the sequence activity, we want to put things in their rightful place. That is to say, the first thing we will do is to research, right? This is the sequence. After researching, we analyze, we proofread, and then we come up with the first draft. Then we go back to proofread and edit. And thereafter, what do? We design book cover, and boom, the book is out. These are sequence of activities. Just like someone who's setting out to want to make a beautiful dish or a beautiful delicacy or a delicious delicacy, pardon me, for the terminologies used where I'm from, we use things that could just make the next man understand them, and we are good. Sometimes even you too on your project, you will use terminologies like me that will enable the next person, your stakeholders, to understand you. All right, so you have sequenced it. So you move on to the next phase, the next process called what? Estimate activity duration. Every activity would not last forever. So what is their rightful duration? How long would they last? So this process is the process of analyzing those sequences, looking at the durations, the resource requirements, and the constraints. And these constraints that will enable us create the schedule. If all the activities are identified, all the activities are sequenced, all the activities are estimated as per their duration, how long they would last, the next phase is to sum them up. You sum them up, observing some constraints, observing some trade-offs, which are called the leads and lags, which are called the floats, which I would still explain to us. You observe that, and when you sum them up, that will give you a single numbering of the project, and that is what is called the schedule. If individual activities will last for 4 days, 3 days, 5 days, and you sum them up, you would not know if the project will be a 90 days project or 4 years project because of those summation. But those summation is not like plussing 1 to 2. We must observe the constraints. That's why we say develop schedule is the process of analyzing activity sequence, analyzing activity duration, looking at their requirement and the schedule constraint to create the project schedule. Having created the schedule, we move on to want to start the job. Something is needed as we execute. We must control our schedule according to the schedule management plan. That takes us to control schedule. This is the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project progress and managing changes to the schedule baseline. Yeah. These are just what is expected of us to do here. 6 of them. Let's iterate: plan schedule management, define activities, sequence activities, then estimate activity duration, develop schedule, and control schedule. We control the schedule till the end of the project. I haven't done this introduction. Now let's start looking at them one by one. So before that, can I have a feedback from someone here to say, right on, we are getting you clearly?
I hear everything you're saying clearly, sir.
Beautiful.
Right on, we can hear you.
Okay, let's ride on. I'm the pilot here. All right, plan schedule management. This is what we want to do right now as professionals. We want to manage, we want to plan the schedule and come up with policies and procedures. What are those policies? What are required of us to do? What do we need? What would be our input? What would be our input for us to be able to plan the schedule management? We need a project charter. Remember, the project charter has a preliminaries, like I said, a high-level definition, a high-level description of everything that has to do with the project. Even the project description is there. The cost, the initial speculated time is there. The requirements are there. The business case is there in a way. So we take it. We now look for the project management plan, and then we lay hands on our identified enterprise environmental factors and the organizational process assets. When we have this, we move on to analyze them by consulting experts, people with hands-on experience in this domain. They will juggle through the project charter, the project management plan, and then at the end of the day, we would be able to have knowledge of how the project schedule will be managed. And this gives us what? Schedule management plan. These are just about policies and procedures, the do's and the don'ts. Who is allowed to approve what? Who is to do what? The reporting, peradventure things are going wrong. How can we save time? What methodology should we use? All these are found in here. So let's keep moving on. So when we say the project management plan, and what aspect of the project management plan is needed? That aspect that talks about time management. That aspect that talks about the work required. That aspect that talked about the work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is very important. And in this project management plan, that is what we want to take. The other day, I showed us a work breakdown structure. How, when the scope was defined, we further place the scope as a log of wood upon a platform, and then we use the axe and start chopping it up to smaller and more manageable packages. Right now, in this area, we still want to look at it to ensure that things are complete writing. And that's what part of what we want to expunge from the project management plan and the project charter. But that's not all. What we will do with those work packages will be mentioned when we move on to the next activity, which is defined activity on this knowledge area. So the enterprise environmental factors, if you could remember, I told us that every project functions in an environment. It could be a geographical environment or a business environment, or you may call it a commercial environment that would have their peculiar conditions, their peculiar constraints. Should we go on and start planning things, not knowing that in that city, people are not even allowed to travel on a specific date? No. We should know how bad and good the roads are. If peradventure, we're going to be hauling materials around the city or town, and the kind of permits needed to move our equipment and materials around the city. How long does it even take to obtain those permits? All these knowledges are needed. This becomes our input. And the organizational process asset. You want to plan, you must have templates. If you're not a starter, you must have templates right in your system there. You wouldn't want to start everything from scratch. Everything we do is just a build-up of the former, the previous, because nothing indeed is new under the sun. No project is completely new. There is a way, even if it's a state-of-the-art project, there must be something we will do there that has been done before. Yeah. So we need processes, assets, things that could enable us hit the ground running without sweating that much, without reinventing the wheels. And what are the tools and techniques to be applied here? The first one is expert judgment. Machines are not going to be getting this done for us. We would be using the machines and the equipment, but we are the experts. The stakeholders are the experts to be consulted. You and your team members. You and the project team members. If it is a book project, you and the publishers, you and the writers, you and the researchers, they are the experts. A particular researcher could say to research knowledge out of the blues for books like this, I think would take us 3 months because of what I did previous years. Took me so and so, duration. But looking at the scope of this one, I think, yeah, give and take. We can, these are experts coming in to analyze the enterprise environmental factors, coming in to analyze the organizational process asset, coming in to analyze the project management plan and the project charter so they can get good results out of it. That this gives us data analysis as one of the tools, which in this area, which project or scheduling methodology would be most appropriate for us to use? How do we detail the schedule needs? If peradventure things are not clear, how do we move it forward? Are we adopting rolling wave planning? I told us about rolling wave planning the other time. I said rolling wave planning, it's a method of progressive elaboration where in time things may not be clear to you. You cannot plan things in detail, but you thought about the Pekeneca headland principle. You can take just a little chunk and plan. And once you execute that, you can learn of the next step. Just as a man who set out to want to travel at night to the next city would first of all see just 50 meters away or 50 feet away from his car headlamp, because that's how far the car headlamp can beam. But he's sure if he can take that carefully, navigate the potholes, he would be able to see additional 50 meters. So that's about rolling wave planning. That's how we plan. Most of the state-of-the-art projects are like that. They are adaptive. And then in this area of data analysis, we would come up with the knowledge of how often should we review and update this hour schedule. And remember, we do this by holding meetings. But these meetings must be productive. These are not endless meetings. Project is a temporary endeavor, so everything you do must be temporary. You don't want to be there forever. So at the end of the day, we now have an output called the schedule management plan. Wow. A little celebration here. When I start dancing, now we have a guide. We have a guide. We have a leader that will see us through schedule management. So this is just a component of the project management plan. And in this component, the criteria have been established. The criteria for managing those timelines, those durations, how to plan for the activities are being what? Established here. How do we develop the schedule? How do we monitor things? How do we control the schedule? And sometimes this schedule management plan may be formal, sometimes not formal. It depends. Everything rises and falls on you, being a project manager. But everything must be geared towards the needs of the project. So what are the things we want to see in that plan? We want to see the project schedule model development. That is about the methodology and the scheduling tool that is to be used. There are lots of scheduling tools, but the king of them all is the Primavera as it is today, subject to be contested. All right? We have the MS project. We have lots of them. But I believe, based on my experience, the Primavera, if you understand the Primavera, every other thing will just be like click, 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 click to you. And that's why I'm going to be teaching us Primavera as a scheduling tool. So in the project schedule management plan, we want to see the adopted model to be used. And then the level of accuracy. It is very important. You must come up with it. The level of accuracy. When we say accuracy, if we say 1 hour, what do we mean? Is it 45 minutes? If we say 1 day.
No, it's an hour.
Come again?
No, sorry, sir. I was confirming what you were saying, that if
Yeah.
you say 45 minutes, it's not an hour, it's 45 minutes. So you're talking about accuracy.
Yeah. So that kind of level of accuracy is planned. All right. 1 hour may not be 60 minutes. 1 hour may be 55 minutes with contingency of 5 minutes. Maybe with tiny breaks. You see now? We know when we say a day's job in your own organization, you can kind of mute and I'll let you know when to mute, okay? Just be with me here. I'm going to be asking you some questions. In your organization, when you say a day's job, how many hours?
A desk job is 8 hours.
8 hours. Did you say 8 hours?
For a day shift, 8 hours.
8 hours. Beautiful. Do you have breaks? Like 1 hour break, lunch break?
Yes, lunch and just regular breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that in some organizations, their own day shift could be 9 hours? Are you aware?
Like nurses.
You are aware?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so it would be that your own management, if you are part of it, congratulations, decided to make yours 8 hours, right?
Correct.
All right. But what if I decide to stay additional 2 hours? Would I be paid?
Yes, overtime.
Oh, no, but if overtime is not permitted, if it's not approved, would I be paid?
No.
So there must be a policy, right, for approval.
Correct. Correct.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So these are what we're talking about. These are what we're talking about. All right. Thank you very much. Today, you're going to be my, how do I put it? What's the right word to describe what you're going to be doing for me? You're going to join me.
Teacher's pet.
Teachers what?
Teacher's pet.
Wow. Okay. I just hope I could hear that clearly. But whatever it is, let's move on. But I'll be calling on you most often. All right? Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
What's your name? Which
He's our
name?
account captain.
Nivek.
Mavic. Let me see it once again, so I would ensure that I'm not murdering your name. Not to be okay. What's happening to me that? Okay, I thought I heard Nevik, and I'm seeing like
Nivek.
Nevik.
Yes.
Nevik. Okay, that's a unique name, and this is the first time I'm seeing that, or I'm hearing that. All right, Nevik, let's move on. There is units of measurement. When we say days shift, should we rather be using 8 hours, or we should be talking about days? So each unit used in measurement must be speculated. In the Primavera, should we be seeing weeks, months, days, or hours? What should we see? That decision should be made. It's not placed on stone. So we have the unit of measurement and also the control threshold. Do you know what control threshold is? Let me hop out here. When would it be too much on the team that they are required to escalate to somebody higher in authority? Sometimes we may say they are allowed to make decisions. A particular workforce could be allowed to make decisions about decisions that will require additional 5 minutes, 1 hour. But anything that will impact on the schedule and impact it in a way that it will be more than 1 hour, 3 hours, should be escalated to senior management for approval before they go ahead to get things done. These are control threshold. And then we have the rules of performance measurements. All these must be found in there. When we say performance measurement, we are talking about end value management. End value management, EVM, is a word that you would hear as long as you are in project management. Write it down. End value management. Localize the word. End is something which you have worked for and you have gotten. That is the meaning of end. So what is the value of that thing you have worked for and you have gotten? And how can you manage that? That is end value management. If it is time, we'll be talking about how would you work for time and what is the value of the time you will get or you have gotten. So I would explain that. So we must come up with rules of end value management. And we have lots of techniques. So we must choose which technique are we using for the end value management. We have schedule performance measurements. All these will be in there. The schedule performance measurements will be looking at the schedule variance. In the schedule variance, we want to see the end value and the planned value. What have you realized? And what was speculated? So all the reporting formats too must be there because you don't want to now start communicating in an unorganized way. Remember our output? Our output is what the schedule management plan. Now we have the schedule management plan. We move on to the next phase, which is the defined activities. This is the process of identifying the specific actions to be performed. The specific actions to be performed must be those actions that will produce the project deliverables. The create WBS process identifies those deliverables, remember, at the lowest level. In the work breakdown structure, remember we talked about the work packages, which are the lowest level in the create WBS process. Now the project work packages are typically furtherly decomposed. Again, we are furtherly decomposing them in these defined activities into smaller components called the activities. So we did not end at the work breakdown structure. We got to the work packages level at the work breakdown structure, and then we thought we were done. And we were dusting off our bodies, cleaning our body, that the match was over. But till now, we are being called upon to further cascade them. Is that not too much work? Well, if it will enable us to manage the project very well, let's go back and get it done. So that is that. The project work packages are typically decomposed into smaller components called the activities that represent the work necessary to complete the work package. So for us to achieve the work packages, we need to further cascade them down into activities. The activities provide the basis for estimating. The activity provides the basis for scheduling, the basis for executing and monitoring and controlling the project work. Yeah. We break it down. So what would be our requirement? What are the inputs? Just 3 inputs. We are good. We need the project management plan. We also need the enterprise environmental factors, the organizational process asset. Once we have this thing done, what do? It's decomposition. The tools and techniques required are decompositions, rolling wave planning, expert judgment, and meetings will be held. I want somebody to tell me about decomposition, kindly unmute and tell me about decomposition if you can't understand that.
I'm not aware of what decomposition is, but I was wondering why some of the text is in red. Are those like the most important parts here?
No. That's my own tiny secret. All right? That's my own tiny secret. Okay, let me let the cat out of the bag. This is the 6th edition, which was an update of the 5th edition. In the 5th edition, the project management plan was not an input. So when they updated the 5th edition, anything you see on red was the update. The new things they added to the 6th edition. So it's always good I place them on red. So as I'm looking at them, I can tell about the differences between 5th and 6th edition. Can you see that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And now we have the 7th edition out. Now the 7th edition is just an addition, a new document added to the 6th edition. So that's why I said we're going to be training on the 6th edition and also the 7th edition. You see that? Okay. You use the 6th edition to get the job done, and you use the 7th edition just as a backup. All right. So that is about the red. Now we were talking about decomposition. You localize the word, Nevik, localize it and explain what decomposition is all about.
I'm not sure, sir.
Pardon?
I'm not sure what decomposition is here.
Go ahead and say something about it.
I don't know what it is to speak on it.
If you decompose something.
But you take it apart?
Yeah, that's the local meaning of that. That's what I want you to just say.
Oh, sorry.
All right, I'm going to bring you up to speed. Thank God you could say something. Now let's move on. We had the scope baseline. We decompose the scope into smaller and more manageable packages, adopting the work breakdown structure. And we got work packages at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure. I'm talking about scope management now. And at the end of the day, we have work packages there. Now we have moved on to another phase, another process called the project schedule management. And in this project schedule management, we have seen defined activities. And defined activities is telling us that those work packages you had in the project scope management, they were good, but they are still big. Let's still further break them down. That is the reason why decomposition is coming in here as a tool. We want to further break the work packages down to smaller and more manageable packages called what? Activities. I know you can't forget this. Would you? Navik, are you here?
I'm here. I'm not gonna forget this now.
Yeah. Okay. Having said that, rolling wave planning that I explained is showing up here. And I said rolling wave planning is when we have some aspect of our work that may not be clear enough for us to plan. So we just plan as much as we can see and we start working on them. And as we work, we would be sure of the next phase, next level. We cannot see things clearer. So we will plan according to how much we can speculate. So we adopt rolling wave planning as another tool and technique. So in your organization, when things are not clear and they're asking you to what? Plan things, plan the near term of things. What are you doing? You are doing rolling wave planning. It's a form of progressive elaboration. Our output becomes the activity list. When you further decompose those work packages, I said you have activity. Where would you place the activity? You place the activities on the document, on the register, on a list called the activity list. That's an output. Now you can now see those activities. We have activity attributes. The activity attributes are the descriptions, the details of those activities. Everything that has to do with them that can describe them better. Yeah. Then we have the milestone list as an output. Let's go in to want to start seeing them. Okay. We've talked about the project management plan in detail. I said what we want to see is a schedule management plan in the project management plan. I talked about the scope baseline, which we got from the WBS, the project work breakdown structure deliverables, the constraints and the absorption documented in the scope baseline are considered explicitly while defining activities. So in the project management plan, these are the documents that we would be calling out. So like I said, the rolling wave planning is a form of progressive elaboration planning, where the work to be done in the near term is planned in detail and future work is planned at a higher level of the WBS. Okay, we've talked about the activity list. The activity attributes is about the activity description, the identifier and everything associated with it. Every activity must have an ID, and these IDs are part of the attribute. Which aspect of the work breakdown structure did they fall in? Must be identified too. The work breakdown structure must have an ID too. I showed us Primavera, and you saw the IDs, the numbers at the left-hand column. And the activity name, when the activity will be completed, the codes, the activity description, what comes before that activity and what comes after that activity. All these are the activity attributes. Just like the word implies, attributed to. Okay, Tolu is typing breakdown. If I can understand, what do you mean?
Tulu was responding to when you asked me what decomposition is.
Oh,
That's the old, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you very much. Oh,
No problem.
okay. That was
Thank
straightforward.
you for that.
All right. That was straightforward breakdown. Decomposition means breakdown. Okay. He has always been the man. So, milestone list. A milestone list is a significant point or event in the project. A milestone list identifies all milestones and indicates whether the milestone is mandatory, such as those required by contract or optional. Okay, now I want to tell you what a milestone is. Milestones are events on our projects. They do not specifically have time duration. They can be mandatory, maybe imposed on the project by the sponsors. These are events. Somebody who is paying you would say, if you're done with the foundation, we will pay you 30%. That is a milestone. They didn't tell you that, yes, in the schedule, you could have known that it will take us 90 days to be done with the foundation yeah, it's there. But they are only placing the milestone, telling you that 30% milestone, 40% milestone, 70% milestone. So you still need to have those milestones because those milestones are the milestones that the owner want to see, that major events are being tied to. And most of these milestones are contractual. When they are contractual, it means they are being stipulated in the contract. But some of them are optional. We, as project managers, may just come up with some milestones that we will use in guiding our team. They don't have specific time. So when you carry out defining activity, milestone list becomes an output, activity list becomes an output, activity attribute becomes an output. Also change request. Why would you initiate a change request? Because you are planning. You could have seen something that could have added a better value to what we thought we were doing, and you may want to suggest it to the team or to senior management. By so doing, you come up with change request. Then at the end of the day, all these new documents, all these new knowledges will go back to the project management plan. That's why we have the project management plan updates. The schedule baseline is out. We have a schedule baseline now out. Because of that, the cost baseline too will be updated. New work is new money. Additional work is additional money. Reduced work is reduced money. That's why the cost baseline also is required to be updated. You see that? This brings us to sequence activity. Like I said, sequence activity is the process of identifying and documenting relationship among the project activities. What comes before what? And then we use what is called leads and lag between these activities. I will explain that. I'll show you a diagram so you can understand what leads is and what lag is all about. So what are the inputs? We need a project management plan, because in the project management plan, we will see the schedule management plan. In the schedule management plan, we can now find the activity list, right? So in that activity list will enable us to now start looking at the work pattern to know what comes first before what. Should we research the book before we write the book? Or should we write before we research? What do we do?
Research before writing.
Wow. That is how it should be, right?
Yep.
Do you think somebody in Asia should write before they research?
No.
This is the work pattern, right?
Correct.
Such a relationship, such a dependency is what is called the mandatory dependency. We have three kinds of dependencies. Mandatory, which means there is no other way. Writing will come before research. There's no way painting a building will come before the plastering. There's no way somebody will paint first before the plaster. These are mandatory dependency. So we use dependency determination to determine the kind of dependencies that we have there. Then we define the dependency, that those dependencies are constraints. The team must know that discretionally they would not go and write before they want to research. So the ones that you, the project manager, according to your expertise, you can change the orientation. Those ones are called the discretionary dependencies. You may decide to do certain things yourself and do them in a particular way according to your expertise. Then we have the external dependencies. There are certain things that happens outside our project that we must respect, we must plan for and plan with. Like in a city where a road would be constructed, they observe the rain and try to ensure that whatever thing they are doing does not fall within when there would be rain. Lots of external dependencies. So let's move on to start looking at them. So we have the project management plan as our input. We have some project documents here. The project document, the activity attributes, the activity list, the assumption logs, the milestone list. We still would check them because we want to sequence things. We want to define relationship. As for the enterprise environmental factors and the organizational process asset, what are the tools needed? The first one is called the precedency diagramming method. The word precedence means what comes afterwards. We want to use a diagram to depict that. And this method of precedency diagramming method use what is called the critical path method for constructing the project schedule. Now I'm going to introduce what the critical path is. Write it down. I told you to write end value management down. Now you're going to write critical path down. These are powerful words that we don't joke with as project managers. If you are done writing it down, say right on.
Right on.
Wow, beautiful. Now, critical is something essential. That should be the meaning. Even without looking at the dictionary, I think something critical, it's something that calls for attention, serious attention. And parts. In the schedule diagram, the schedule diagram is a diagram that shows the precedency, what comes first. Is a network diagram that shows what comes first before what what should happen with what. Because certain times they could be plastering. At the same time they are plastering, somebody's excavating somewhere else. You see, the diagram is showing that plastering and excavation of maybe a trench somewhere could happen at the same time. So the critical part looked at the network diagram and identified the longest duration. The longest duration of the critical part of the scheduled network is what is called the critical part. Why do we say it's critical? It is critical because it has zero float. I'm now introducing some words that it's just like I'm using Albania to explain Albania. I know, but I'm going to break them down. But just hear me. When I show you the diagram, I want to explain what critical part is. I want to explain what float is. And they say, wow, you talked about critical part. You talked about zero float. Now I can understand what float is. Write that one down to float. Write float, write zero float, write total float. write free float. When we get there, I'll now start explaining these things to you. Total float, free float, and float. Okay? So in the precedency diagramming method, we use activities on boxes. Let's take a look at them. Now, take a look at this. I know you may not be seeing my cursor. Are you seeing it?
Yes, we can see the cursor.
Okay, look at the start of the project, right? And everything you see in the box are different kinds of activities that we will conduct till before the finishing of the project. Take a look at the network diagram. When we are, just take a look at that. Take A to be an activity of foundationing, if it is a construction work. At the same time that we are carrying out the digging, the foundation, maybe procurement activity is ongoing. Can you see D? They are happening,
Yes.
they are happening concurrently, right?
Yes.
Ah. So if activity A is 4 minutes, or no, 4 days, activity B is 4 days, so the total duration will be how many days? How many days do we need to complete these two activities?
If they're going concurrently, it's just 4 days.
Oh God. So you know project management and then you came to sit down in this class. Are you, what are you trying to do here? Yeah, concurrently 4 days. But if they were sequentially like A and B, how many days?
8.
8 days. So this relationship of A and D is called the start-to-start relationship. I know you like that word, start-to-start. Then the relationship of A and B is called the finish-to-start relationship, rather, right? Finish-to-start relationship, which means we must complete A before we start B. We must complete B before we start C. But at the same time, B and E, they are running concurrently, while A and B run sequentially. C and F runs concurrently, while E and F runs sequentially. Now, Nivik, how many paths can you identify in this network diagram?
6.
How many paths can you identify here?
6.
X? No. When I say paths, I don't know if I'm getting what you're saying, but now this is a path. A path starts A, B, C, finish is a path.
Ah.
D.
Okay, so then 2.
2?
No. Wait, I'm not understanding that.
No,
A, B, C are running concurrently. I mean, no, sequentially.
Yeah.
And then A and D are running concurrently.
Okay.
C and F are running concurrently.
Okay, let
So
me go. Let me go.
go ahead.
I'm going to be the one to show you the partner. Let's move
Can
on.
I answer?
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say if it's sequential, it's going to be time parts. Due to the fact that there is a path between the start to A, while from A to B, and from B to C. On if it is concurrently, it's going to be A and D. But I'm talking about sequentially. So from start to D and from D to C is also a path. Also from D to E and E to F to finish is also a path. So I could only count 9.
You got something, but you didn't get it right. Now let's move on. Follow me. Let's travel. Start. A, B, C, D is one part. This is a path that you can follow to the end of the project. because every other thing can be happening at the same time when this part is ongoing, right? Now move again. Start, D, E, F, finish. That's another part. How many have we identified? 2. Now let's move. Start, D, C. Can you see the arrow took you to C? Then finish. So how many parts do we have?
3.
3 parts in this network diagram. And Anna told us.
Making 3.
Making 3 parts to this network diagram, which means we can follow, we can do things in 3 different ways to get to the end of the project. Then now, what is the critical part? The critical part is the longest duration. When we were trying to give activity duration, I said A is 4 days, D is 4 days, right? So if peradventure, A is 4 days, B is 4 days, C is 4 days. How many days do we have in that part?
12.
12 days. Then
12.
we now get to this place. If D is 4 days and C is 4 days, then to the finish, how many days?
8.
8 days. So the start A, B, C, finish is still leading now, 12 days, right?
Yes.
So we now come back to the last one, D, which is 4 days, and then E happens to be 2 days. Then F, 3 days to finish. How many now do we have? How many days?
9.
So which is the longest part?
A through C, 12 days.
Yeah, that's the longest duration. That is the critical part. So that with this calculation alone, manually, you can say this project is a 12-day project. Because every other part, we are still happening as the 12 days was counting, right? Who is confused?
Yeah.
Correct.
Nobody's confused here, right?
No.
So we have the longest
I can
duration.
get it.
The longest duration is 12 days, which means this project is a 12 days project. Now, this is what the Primavera would be calculating for you. But now the Primavera now will look at it and say, there are certain other things I want to bring into bear, which are the leads and the lags, which I've not explained. I'm going to show you that, but calm down. Just understand the critical part. Now, there are 2 different ways we can identify the critical part, which we've talked about the longest duration as the first one, which means, why is it critical? Every activity on that part, you don't play with it. If you mistakenly play with activity A and it turns to be what? 5 days, which means the project will be 13 days. True or false?
Can you repeat that?
I said, we have 4, 4, 4, that is A, B, C, which are for 12 days, right? And they are 4 days each. If you now decide to delay on A, additional 1 day, what do you think will happen to the total days?
It'll be 13.
It will be 13 days.
It will increase.
It will increase to 13 days. So it is critical because every activity on that part, you don't play with them. Now, if it is 13 days, remember you're paying your engineers, your researchers, your painters, and the equipment they would use by the hour and by the day. So you delayed it. Whose money are you going to use in paying for the additional 1 day? Whose money? You defined the budget and you told the project owners that it will cost them so and so amount, and it will last so and so day. And now you want to use additional day. Whose money?
Your own.
Your money, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Indeed, your money. We had a fine in my first project. We had a fine of $1 million. No, not $1 million. $150 million. The project was 40-something billion dollar project. It's an LNG project. A fine of $150 million per day if we delay the project for any day. Why? Because those mansion ships, those equipment and certain other things that have been hired are being paid daily. So as you're coming in as a project manager, signing your project charter, these are the things that you are calling upon yourself. So this is why you see that the project manager sometimes will be ready to box, will be ready to drag, will be ready to fire, at the same time hire. You understand? Is that critical? Now we have defined the critical part. Now the second longest duration is the one that was 9, all right? DEF, right?
Yes.
So that one is called the near critical part. Then there's what is called float. The word float, the local time is playing time. Playing time. Playing time. These activities on the critical part, A, B, C, they do not have playing time. It is these activities, this other part, D and C, D and C have playing time of 4 days, true or false, because they are 8 days now. They have playing time of 4 days. Who can identify that? The longest duration is 12 days. And I said, if that is what the project if that is what is used to declare the duration, the finishing of the project, and all these ones can happen, which means D and C, which are 4 days, we may decide to delay them additional 2 days even before we finish them, but they must be finished before. No, C cannot be delayed because C is on the critical part. D can be delayed. D has a float of 4 days. Because even if you finish D, at when you finish E, at when you finish A, C cannot start. C can only start when B is finished, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So instead of coming to start D at when A is starting, I may decide to wait till A is finished and start it when B is starting now. And it will not affect C. Will it affect it?
No.
Yeah, it will not. The truth is that A is 4 days, B is 4 days, D is 4 days. Then A and B, they are the ones that have sequential relationship. A, B, C have sequential relationship. D has concurrent relationship with A and also with B. So that is to say that when I come to start A, I may delay D and wait for A to finish that 4 days. Then when I want to start B, I go and start D. Because D is 4 days, B is 4 days. So that time, B can finish 4 days, D can finish 4 days, and immediately C will continue. Nothing is spoiled. The critical part is still the critical part, which means D has a playing time of 4 days. That playing time.
So, sir, are you trying to tell us that we can start D and E at the same time as B?
D and E?
Yes, since you said we can delay D to start it when B is starting, that means E is supposed to start when B is starting concurrently. That means we are starting D and E at the same time with B, concurrently with B.
No. When we delay D, E is already delayed. D and E has sequential relationship. We must finish D before we start E. You cannot start D and E at the same time. But because now you know that if we lose, we are looking at this part. Now, if you lose 4 days in the part of D and C, it will affect these 9 days, because this 9 days on this duration has how many days to play with? 3 days. The DEF has 3 days to play with. Why DC to finish has 4 days to play with, right? We are told, look at 12 now. DC is 8, which means he can play. He has 4 playing days now. Is it not clear?
So that means we only have 3 days playing, not 4.
It is D and
Since
E.
you said, sorry, sir, since you said D time is 4, E is 2, and F is 3. That means that's 9.
I understand.
Remaining 3
Yeah.
out of 12.
Calm down. I'm taking you somewhere now. D can play.
Okay.
D can play for 4 days. But if D plays for 4 days, the near critical part will be affected with 1 day. Because it is 9, right? And D is part of that near critical part. And also in this other one that has 4 days to play with. So you will not go and play, you will not delay that activity D for 4 days. Because if you delay D for 4 days, it will impact on DEF. And the total DEF, which is the near critical part, becomes what? 13 days. Because it's already 9. Is that clear? On mute, I'm talking to you.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, if it is clear, that is why it's called the near critical part. When you are dealing with the critical part, protecting the critical part, don't go and make a decision that will affect the near critical part, because that near critical part cannot be longer and it will not affect. Because if D eats up 4 days, E is already affected. F is already affected. That part is already affected. Because D that is a member,
It will, yeah.
D that is a member alone went to go and eat up 4 days. Whereas in their union, they have only 3 days to play with.
It will even affect the whole non-critical.
The non-critical, yeah. You see now, you know.
Because if you play, you are thinking maybe you are playing, you just notice that the time duration might just get longer, and it will affect the critical part.
So that's what we are saying, because it's the near critical part. So now you can understand what critical part is. And now that you have this knowledge, this is the knowledge that I just want you to put in your head. But your Primavera does this calculation for you. You see? But in an interview, somebody may want to look at your eyes and know if you know what the machine is doing underground. I say, are you sure you know what the machine is doing? You're calling yourself expert. So these are part of what, there is no interview that they will not ask you about critical part. What is critical part? You say critical part is the longest duration of this schedule network diagram. Critical part is the part that has no float. What is float? Float is playing time, like what we have just defined. But how can we not calculate the float? I will show you in the future. Let's move on. Are we learning? Are you enjoying this class?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So now take 5 comments. Just now. Let me see. I hope Tolu is not the one talking. And he talks, it comes like
I was one talking, read one.
Read one, you say my money, okay? Your money. Your money. Tolu said for sure, your money. Man, let's move on. It's getting better. So now, I told us about that relationship. So we have 4 relationships in the precedency diagramming method. Finish to start relationship. The initiation of the successor activity depends upon the completion of the predecessor activity. That is the relationship between A and B. You see, A must be finished before we start B, right? That is the relationship between that. Then we have finish to finish relationship. That sounds like the relationship. Let's go again. Finish to finish relationship. That sounds like the relationship between B and D. Because both of them, the start of C depends on the finishing of 2 of them, right? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
The start of C depends on the finishing of B and D, true or false?
That is correct.
So B and D have finish to finish relationship.
Correct.
We may say B and D can finish at the same time, or maybe with just a little small time difference. Then we have start-to-start relationship. A and D have start-to-start relationship. Let's go and look at them. Do they have start-to-start relationship, A and D?
Yes.
Uh-huh. That's how it works. That's how it works. Very simple. Then we have start to finish relationship. That's the completion of the successor. The completion of the successor activity depends on the initiation of the predecessor activity. Start to finish. A particular activity must start before you finish. That kind of condition. Now I'm going to use people in the security post to explain that. They run shift. And remember, they're supposed to hand over. We could have told them that the change of shift is 6 a.m. And James, who did the night shift to 6 a.m., is supposed to hand over at 6 a.m. to John. So James is going to be finishing when? 6 a.m. When is John supposed to be starting? Hello?
John will start at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. But what if James, who had finished at that 6 a.m., now checked and John is not available? Maybe I sighted John from afar at that 6 a.m., dragging his feet. Is he allowed to just walk away? Answer me.
No.
Somebody must be at the duty post, right?
Correct.
So that is a constraint. So when does he finish? He finishes only when he sees John coming to start, when John has already started, before he can leave. Those are constraints. So if John is delayed, James will be delayed, true or false?
Correct. True.
So when you are defining your activities, doing your sequencing activities, these are things you consider. Now, there are things we use in considering that. It is called the lead and the lag. Before that, let me show us another activity, another network diagram. We have two network diagrams. We have checked the precedency diagramming method. We want to check the activity diagramming method now. Precedency diagramming method. Now we want to check what? The activity diagramming method. All they are the same. You can use the same words interchangeably, but in your head, you know that there are different ways to write the structure. The other one, the activity was on the node. It was the activity A was inside the box. This one, the activity is on the arrow. Can you see it?
Yes.
That's the difference. The activity diagramming method, the activity is on the arrow. Why the other one? The activity is in the box. And said use this only for finish to start dependencies. This one is used only for finish to start relationship. Why the other one is not like that? I told us about 3 different kinds of dependencies, right? Mandatory dependency, discretionary dependency, and external dependencies. So, Nevik, can you remember what I talked about mandatory dependencies? You may read from the board and explain if you cannot remember.
Mandatory dependencies are those that are contractually required to inherit in the nature of the work.
What does it mean?
So that means in order for one activity to take place, another one has to be completed. They depend on each other. Yeah.
Exactly. They don't depend on each other. The successor activity depends on the predecessor activity to be completed. And they are mandatory because it's the nature of the job. There is no way we can change that orientation. There is no way you can change the orientation of plastering and painting. There's no way you can change the orientation of, what else would I use? Researching and writing. There is no way. That is why it's called mandatory. So, but if it happens to be that we can juggle the ways, based on standard practices, it becomes a discretional. It said are sometimes referred to as preferred logic, while the mandatory are referred to as hard logic. It's not written here, but I could tell you that. The mandatory dependencies are called hard logic, while the discretional dependencies are what? Soft logic or preferential logic or preferred logic. They are based on best practices within a particular application area. You just know that you are using your discretion to change the orientation of the dependencies. There are times like that because of experience. You may ask some persons to wait, stop doing that. Go and get this done first. You already know why you're saying that. They may not know. Then the external dependency involves relationship between project activities and non-project activities. I use the range to explain that. Saying example is testing activity in a software project can be dependent on the delivery of hardware from an external source. The hardware must be delivered first before we carry out the test. We cannot carry out the test when the hardware is not delivered. Yeah. Oh, this brings us to the so-called lead and lag. I need you to pay attention here. A lead allows an acceleration of the successor activity. Example, on a project to construct a new office building, the landscaping could be scheduled to start 2 weeks prior to the scheduled punch list completion. This would be shown as a finish to start with 2 weeks lead. Now you are finished to start with 2 weeks lead. It's saying that the construction of the new office building, say the landscaping could be scheduled to start. Yes, it's in a finish to start relationship. This landscaping is scheduled to start, but only 2 weeks prior to the scheduled punch list completion. Which means we must complete the schedule punch list before we start the landscaping. But the completion of the schedule punch list should not be completely complete. When we have 2 weeks left, we cannot start the landscaping. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
And when I show you diagram, you would understand. So the lag now comes in here. It's like a delay in a successor activity. Example, a technical writing team can begin editing the draft of a large document 15 days after begin writing it. This could be shown as start-to-start relationship. Now, let's see this. Take a look at this diagram. Can you see this diagram?
Yes, sir. I can see.
You see that the lead task A and task B, they have finish to start relationship, but with the time elapsing here, the time on red, you see it?
Yes.
It's showing that we will complete A before we start B, but we will not totally complete A. When we are close to like 1 day, 2 days, 1 week in completing A, we cannot start B. But they are still start and finish to start relationship. Then we have the leads, the lag. Can you see the lag?
Yes.
In between. There's a time in between. We must ensure that we finish A, but we are not allowed to start B. These are constraints. I call them what? Constraints. They are things you must observe because of the nature of the job. You may want to ask me what kind of job that you must finish before you must finish and still wait before the next activity will start. Lots and lots of jobs are like that. In construction work, when we cast a decking, we are not allowed to start building upon it. We allow it for like 14 to 21 days before we now start laying blocks on it. Who has that experience? Or who has heard that? Read one. Kindly unmute and correspond with me.
Yeah, I've heard about that lag a lot because there's no way you're going to build a house. Even you are doing foundation, you have to allow the foundation to be solidified before you start putting block. So
Okay.
you have to give it some time.
So that time, no activity is done there, right?
Yes, no activity will be done along that time because they have to allow it.
How many days you would wait?
After it has been solidified, you have to call. What do you say?
How many days you would wait would be mentioned, and that is called the lag.
If it's going to anything foundation, it's going to be by cement. You have to wait like 20 days before you start putting block. Because
So
you have to stand well.
that is a constraint, right?
Yes.
Even if your body is itching you, you're not allowed to go and do whatever thing you want to do. You must wait. It's mandatory, right?
No way, unless you want the house to collapse.
Beautiful. So we identify those areas that will let us do this. And we define the time and put it there. So whoever that is coming to do work there will know that once I finish frying the egg, before I now tear the bread and sandwich it in, before I start pressing it to buy the Fanta for it, I must wait, hold my throat and wait. Let the egg cool down. First of all, the law says wait for it to cool down. Then before you can open up the bread and put it inside and close it. Then you carry your Fanta, then you're good to go. Sorry about that example. I'm not actually calling hunger on you people. This would make some persons to want to start visiting the kitchen right now. Okay, so it was just to explain that. So that's about leads and lag. Now the float we talked about sounds like the lag, right? Where we were talking about playing time. It's not like that. The float is only on the individual activity. I will show you. So now let's move on. We have looked at all this terminology, and then at the end of the day, the output becomes what? The project schedule network diagram. Now the network diagram is out. Wow, this is our network diagram. Can you see it? Let me reduce it. This is our network diagram. We can see our start. We can see activity A, how it connects to activity B, and C, D. So is now you see under B and C. Did you see the SS? Is it showing? Can you see SS under B and C?
Yes, I see it.
That SS is showing what? Start to start relationship, right?
Yes.
Now come down to FG. Can you see FS plus 15 days?
Correct. Yes.
That is what? Finish to start relationship plus what? 15 days.
15 days.
So what does that 15 days mean? You see lag or lead?
Lag.
Lag, right?
Yes.
We will finish, but we can still wait for 15 days before we start the other one. Now, if you peradventure, you see that 15 days to be minus 15, does that not mean lag? Does that not mean lead? It means lead, right?
Correct. Lead.
It means lead, yes.
Yes,
Minus
that's
15.
to say we will finish before it starts, but let it start 15 days prior to the completion of F. So with this diagram, I print this diagram and give to you. And now under DA bit, I now put the activity duration, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, 6 days, and give it to you. Now give you the activity attributes, which means I've described them and every other thing and give to you. Can you not use this diagram to manage the project very well?
Yeah.
Can you now use it? You can, right?
Yes.
Because you cannot understand it. Now let's look for how many parts we have here. Let's go. Start A, B, E, and end, one part. Start A, B, C, D, E, another part, right? That's two parts. Start H, C, D, E, end. That's the third part. Start H, F, G, end. Another part. Start H, I, J, end. Start K, I, J, end. Then start K, L, J, end. So these are the parts, different parts which we have. So two parts are we looking for here? The longest part, which is the critical part, and the near critical part, right? All right.
Yeah.
Today we have been corresponding so much because it's a difficult area. The other classes, I was not expecting your feedback, but today we had to give each other feedback because it's different. This area is somewhere that if you do not carry the class along, you will meet people spreading their mat and they will be sleeping. Okay, so now that we have the critical part, and now when you look at the network diagram, you see that the duration was not stated now. No duration was stated now, right? We just see A, B, C, D. They didn't tell us how long. So now, after the sequencing, we move to the next phase, which is the estimate activity duration. Now we cannot tell how long it will last. This brings us to what? It brings us to this estimate activity duration. Now we have our inputs, the project management plan, the project schedule, the enterprise environmental factors, the organizational process asset as our input. But we want to estimate those activities we talked about. How long will they last? What is the best way? What are the tools needed? We have about 8 tools showing here. And I want us to take our time to understand them. Please do not be in a hurry to go. Let's get this clear first before we call it a day. All right, please. So we now have this. Let's take a look at the tools and the techniques. What are the outputs we are looking for? We are looking for the duration estimates. We are looking for the basis of estimates. We are looking for the project document updates, which means when we create this estimate, something will happen to the project document. It will be updated. So now let's move on to the tools and techniques and start understanding them. Remember, experts, people like us, people who have hands-on experience, will sit down together to do this work. So we talked about the project management plan as the input needed. We talked about the project documents that we want to work on. What are the project documents? We need the activity attribute, mostly the activity list. So we can see the activities we want to estimate their duration. Now we now have the list in hand. Other things may be needed. The assumptions that are made when those activities are defined, the lessons that they learned, and the register of the lessons learned. We look at the milestone list. We may also want to bring the work breakdown structure and look at it and understand the resource breakdown. The resource breakdown tells you what are the resources that will carry out that activity. The material, the equipment, the personnel that will carry out that activity. These are the resources and how they are broken down in the individual activity, in the work breakdown structure, down to the work packages level, from the work package level down to the activity level. We want to see that. And also the resource calendar. The word resource calendar, I know it's new to some persons here. But if it's not new to you, let me still remind you or build upon what you know. Resources calendar. Which means the days that those things will be used, they will be needed, can be speculated against the project schedule network diagram. When you look at it, for activity C, that will be coming on day 21. On that day, we say, 2 civil engineer, 1 this, 1 that, 2 earth pan, 2 shovel will be available, should be available on that day. So we can now look at the diagram. Now we may not be looking at activity. We can just look at the diagram and we'll be showing only activity and where 2 earth pan is needed, where 2 civil engineers are needed. So at that level, that is a resource calendar. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you are to go and hire or recruit a civil engineer, it must be done several weeks or days before that day. That day they should be on site. So the resource calendar can guide you. in doing that. So that's why we need it. Then the risk register. All the identified risk is in the risk register. So now we want to carry out estimates. Pay attention. Pay attention. In fact, in this area, I like you guys to be seeing my face, but I cannot on my camera on this laptop right now. No, I want you to be looking at my eyes, how red they would be when I'm explaining this area, because it's important. Nivik, what can you see on the screen? Two guys are showing up there.
The estimating? Or did you say graphs? I don't see graphs.
No, oh, pardon me for my accent. Two guys are showing up there. Guys, like G-U-Y-S.
Oh, yes.
So what are they?
Analogous estimating and parametric estimating.
Do you know what analogous is?
No.
Have you heard of the word historical? Historical.
Yes.
Yeah. So this analogous is historical. It's a historical estimating method. You know, when you have done a building, carry out a project several years back, and I ask you to come and do another one, you cannot go back and look at the historical information of the one you did. You say, for that project, that activity took me 4 days, 4 hours, 15 days to get it done. I haven't looked at the scope of this one. I think it will take us 4 days or maybe 4 hours. That is analogous estimate, using parameters from historical project, from historical knowledge to want to give estimate of a thing. That's the word analogous estimate. Is there a time somebody would use historical knowledge to give estimate? Would there be a time?
Yes.
Yes. Somebody's asking you, this project I want to embark on, how long do you think it will last? And now you know, yeah, okay, yeah, this is a project, yeah, it's like this project, but different with this, with that. I think 40 days. And he asks you why. You now start telling him, I did a project like this several years back, and the scope are similar, only that this one is like this and that, historical. So in the beginning, when we are starting up the project, the kind of estimate we have is analogous estimating. Uses parameters such as duration, budget size, weight, and complexity from previous similar project as the basis for estimating the current project. Now, this kind of estimates, analogous estimate, they are not too clear because this time you have not brought out your tape and you have not started calculating. You have not even gone to that terrain to look at the peculiarity of the environment to know what can eat up your time, what can, accelerate your time, what could cause delay, but you can just say it, right? So it may not be accurate. So at this time, the project may be minus 25% or plus 75% accurate. It's a rough order estimate. But yet it can still give somebody knowledge of how long it will take. So anytime you see analogous, you think of historical, right?
Yes.
Then the word parameter, parametric estimate. This one, you want to count blocks. You want to count pages of books. You want to take a tape to measure the width and the breadth of the book, of the pages, to tell us how much paper that will be needed. By so doing, you're using parameter, statistical relationship. You're looking at historical data also in a way, and other variables. But right now, not particularly historical data. But maybe you just use them, what the analogous estimate has provided. You just want to use it to guide yourself. But now you want to make calculation and estimate for the activity parameters. You want to look at the cost. You want to look at the budget. You want to look at the duration. If one man can take 4 hours to get this done, how many hours would 17 men use in getting it done? You bring your calculator and you punch it. That estimate is the best estimate and is the most accurate estimate. And that one is plus or minus 10%. That is kind of estimate we need. Where which, if somebody asks you to paint a wall, You can now use your tape and say 1 square foot will take a bucket of paint. Since we are painting 75 square foot of wall, is 1 times 75. That's an accurate estimate. And once you have this kind of estimate done, and you go to sleep, and you carry your product and you give to people, say, go and paint. You mustn't be there to inspect them, to watch them, whether they are doing the right thing or not. No. If you come back and they said the cement, the painting, sorry, the painting has been exhausted and they have done only 50% of the job, you know they stole your paint. Why? Because you measure the thickness of the paint, you measured the square foot of the wall. It cannot lie. If they drag, you measure what they have done. If they argue, you measure what they have done. And you tell them you use 45 buckets of cement. Where are the remaining 30 buckets you have taken? If you lie, it may not be more than 10% of the buckets of paint. If it is not 30 they have stolen, it will be 33 or 32. It's most accurate. Parametric. Beautiful way of estimating. Then we have another one that is called the 3-point estimate. This 3-point estimate is when we are not sure. It said the accuracy of the activity duration estimate can be improved by considering estimation, uncertainty, and risk. We are not sure. This concept originated with the program evaluation and review technique part. It used 3 parameters to estimate. One is the most likely. The second one is the optimistic. The third one is the pessimistic. When we say most likely, the duration of the activity given to the resources likely to be assigned. I'm going to use an example. I live in a city called Port Harcourt. From my city to another city called Aba, when the road is good, when the road was first built, we take 45 minutes to travel there to buy things and come back because there's an international market in that city. 45 minutes. And when you go onto the internet and you Google, it will show you 45 minutes. Use your map, 45 minutes. But at the time, the roads went bad that we could spend 10 hours sometimes on that road. Very, very bad. 10 hours could be because of no traffic wardens directing cars, helping to decongest the road. But in a kind of way, some days, the least is 3 hours, 4 hours. But when the worst case scenario becomes 10 hours, the best case scenario could be 45 minutes, but it's not possible. But the most likely scenario is 3 hours. I've given you 3 parameters. Now you want to plan to move equipment from my city to that city. If you're not conversant with the terrain, you will say it's 45 minutes and you go and plan and then your project will fail. But in such a place where if everything is good, it's 45 minutes. The days that the workers are not there, it's 10 hours. The days that they are there, it's 3 hours. That becomes the most likely scenario. The worst case scenario becomes the pessimistic scenario. The best case scenario becomes the optimistic scenario. So you are working with these 3 figures to plan. So how do you plan in such a case? How do you plan your project? How do you make estimates? How do you estimate that activity of taking equipment from Port Harcourt to that city? At that case where there are different times playing, you do what is called the PERT, the project evaluation and review techniques. You bring this formula out. Take a look at my board. This is the one I want you to know for better. Optimistic. I said optimistic is what? Best case scenario, 45 minutes. plus the most likely, which is 3 hours. 4 times 3 hours, 12 hours. Pessimistic, the worst case scenario, 10 hours. So when you plus all this, you divide it by 6. Whatever thing you have is what you will put anytime that place appears in your project. Anytime taking equipment to that place appears is what you will put. Now let's make our calculation. 45 minutes plus 12 plus 10, that is 22 minutes for the 22 hours, 45 minutes divided by 6. That's close to 4 hours. Just say 3 hours. 3 hours 3 hours 58 minutes. 3 hours 58 minutes. So each time you want to allot duration for the activity, you put 3 hours 58 minutes. So as you keep doing that, the days that the roads will be good, it will take 45 minutes. The days that the road will be very, very bad, 10 hours. But give and take, at the end of the day, you will discover that this your 3 hours levels out because you consider the scenarios to make your estimate. It will level out because some days maybe 45 minutes, some days 3 hours, some days 10 hours. Plusing everything together, you see that your 3 hours. But mostly, this should be what? For projects that will be lasting for a very long time. Projects that applying that roads will be done in several ways or several times. Come in. Let's know who is disturbing the class. Okay, let's move on. So we are pretty slow, but did you get that?
Yes.
So another estimate is the bottom-up estimate, where we go to the activity level and start adding up the individual activity duration up. And then we move on, we get what we should get, and we are done. We had all the individual activities. That's a bottom-up estimate. It's a method of estimating the project duration or cost by aggregating the estimates of the lower level component of the work breakdown structure. Then another tool needed is the data analysis. We are looking at alternative analysis. We are looking at the reserve analysis. When we say reserve, how much should we keep aside? Remember, I told you that parametric estimate is about minus 10 or plus 10% accurate. That's to say that you must add some contingencies of 10% of every time to the duration. If it is 1 hour, what should you report? 1 hour, 6 minutes, right? This is called contingency reserve. And as you embark on your project, you'll be looking at it. Is he enough? Is he enough? Is he enough? Is my contingency enough? Then you make your decisions. And at the end of the day, your duration is being estimated. And you show the basis of estimate. And once the basis of estimate is shown, that's all. You update your project document. You move on to the next level where the project schedule is developed. Now, what is our time? I'm coming. Let me pause the recording first. Okay, we just have 15 to 20 minutes to round up what we have. I need you to let me, if I have to stop here or write on, then we just complete this area so we know that what we are supposed to cover for today has been covered. Or should we stop here?
Let's stop here, please. Because me, I'm already feeling sleepy.
Oh, you just woke up from sleep now, right?
It's already late in Nigeria.
Late in which Nigeria? I said don't call Nigeria in this.
Yeah.
This is a US class.
My own Nigeria is already late now.